In a world ruled by geniuses, a little prodigy, a little talented learner, finds himself helpless, breaking down completely, thinking that everything he's done up until this point was meaningless. However, through that despair, Isagi reaches a new conclusion. Now with his back against the wall, he finally bares his teeth and shows his true self as he attains a new weapon, gains a new form to Metavision, and finally challenges Rin, the Destroyer versus the Adaptability Demon. But hold on a second, what can Isagi even do against the Beast of Destruction? Well, that's what I am going to try and explain to you guys in today's video. But before we do, however, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider subscribing and joining my community Discord server for more amazing BLUELOCK theories and reviews. And now without any further ado, let's jump in. To know what this Isagi is all about, first we gotta talk about another name. We gotta talk about Noah and his betrayal to Isagi, which was not born out of hatred or disappointment, but rather it was simple. It was just from competitiveness. He did not align with Kaiser because he is better than Isagi. No, he did it because as long as Isagi looks at Noah as his idol, he does not feel any competitiveness from him. And this pushed Noah to discard Isagi altogether, because someone who does not compete with Noah does not help him to improve, and thus our protagonist gets a big reality check. However, I gotta note that this is brilliant writing from the author. The writing for this betrayal was on the wall all along, pun intended, and it's honestly astonishing. Going back and reading the NEL from the start, you can really tell that Noah was always pushing both Kaiser and Isagi towards them competing with him, and so this reality check made so much sense. However, because he is the Adaptability Demon, it ended up helping Isagi more than anything, because now he threw every attachment he had, whether be it rivalries towards Rin and Kaiser, or his idealization and reliance on Noah. But actually there is a catch to it, which I want to explore later. So for now, let's shift gears and talk about another reason why Isagi broke, which is Loki's insane speed. Due to how oppressive it is, one finds himself hopeless, as was the case with Kaiser as well. All what they did, all what they suffered to reach this point, seem very meaningless against this god-gifted speed. However, if Isagi is to win this match for Bastard, he has to deal with Loki one way or another, which will be insanely hard given that in the Manshine City game, his Metavision was completely useless against Chigiri. And actually this is where the second clue presents itself for us to understand what this new level Isagi has attained is all about. Because frankly, this evolution will enable Isagi to reach the pros level. I don't see him being better than any of the pros that we know so far. However, at least Isagi will enter the realm with this awakening, which is something I did not expect to happen this soon. As for Loki, because now Isagi understands the equation of evolution, he will find a way of dealing with him, or for the very least design a way to avoid him to reach the goal. This is how a prodigy deals with a genius. But then again, the same question presents itself: what can Isagi even do against this speed? Well, let's actually look at Isagi's ego type. He is a holistic or a war type ego, as well as freedom type, ignoring the latter for now and focusing on the holistic type of ego. This means that Isagi is more interested in goals that are recognizable by the world. However, I want you to know that this does not mean that Isagi is weak or that he relies on certain players. As the equation to evolution explains, Isagi shines because of geniuses, because simply put, he is a prodigy that is on their level. By himself he might seem simple. However, in an environment like football where it is filled with geniuses, Isagi shines. And actually Noah, Loki and Rin being the biggest geniuses means that Isagi gets to shine even more. And so how can he attain that? Well, the answer lies in another pro who made it seem easy to deal with geniuses. I'm talking of course about the best in the world, Mark Snuffy. Now I have already covered this in a separate video, how Isagi is following on Snuffy's footsteps. However, in that video I made it very clear that Snuffy has always had a way to deal with geniuses. For example, he has jujitsu to beat physicality, and thus there must be a way for Isagi to beat Loki's speed. Now obviously Isagi is not going to reinvent the wheel. Metavision is still his strongest weapon, and so the key is definitely there. Now, as you all know, there are levels to Metavision. For example, we can think of how Ryo's Metavision stacks against Nico, or Nico's against Isagi, and Snuffy having the best metavision in the world allowed him to dominate the field. He was reacting to attacks before they unfold fully. He was 2 steps ahead of everyone. Even players like Isagi and Kaiser, who were on a league of their own compared to the other players. And actually what amazed me about this, Snuffy actually utilized players like Paro and Lorenzo and actually brought the best out of them. And if you think about it, this is how Kaiser beat Chigiri's speed, by relying on Yuki. The moment Yuki halted Chigiri's advancement, Kaiser was there to meet him and take the ball away from him. And this is definitely very interesting, because now I truly believe that Isagi will use both Kaiser and Noah to beat Loki. And you might be wondering, how is that even possible? Well, we've seen that Loki actually can't beat Noah one-on-one. He was forced to pass. And Kaiser is actually pretty fast. In fact, among the U20 players right now, he is the fastest behind Zantetsu. And even though Loki dwarfs his speed, I think with Kaiser's positioning and intellect, he has the highest chance at reacting to Loki. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Kaiser will be stopping Loki. That's not actually going to happen. What I actually mean is that him and Noah will play a huge role in stopping Loki. And it makes sense that Kaiser will target Loki because he's more frustrated than Isagi with him, due to Loki stomping over his Kaiser impact in the previous play. And this is exactly what I mean by him not stopping Loki but actually playing a huge role, because this frustration makes him a prime target for Isagi to manipulate. And actually this is a point that I will be getting back to later, so let's just move on. Now, beating Loki is a prerequisite. However, it's not the end goal for us, because this power is not really about Loki, but rather this power is all about making Isagi dominate over other geniuses. So how would that look, and what could it enable him to do? I honestly think the second key after Snuffy is Rin, specifically his Berserker state. Now, we've learned that this state is actually Rin's dormant and original ego re-emerging, and we already know that both Isagi and Rin are the same in this regard. They both had their egos sealed at a young age, which I have already covered in a dedicated video, but essentially when Isagi played in high school, his ego got sealed due to the mentality of the team he was playing for. However, when he came to BLUELOCK, bit by bit, he was starting to reawaken that ego. And that's because Isagi is very adaptive, and he always adapts to the environment he finds himself in. When the high school environment crushed that ego, it got sealed off. However, in the harsh environment of BLUELOCK, it is bit by bit re-emerging. However, think of it this way. Now we have 2 pros clashing. Both of them are the top level of geniuses. Loki's frustrating speed, Noah's betrayal, and Rin's dominance. And we reach the harshest environment Isagi has ever experienced. And thus, I believe this form that Isagi attained reacting to the harshest environment ever represents the fact that his sealed ego has completely burst into the scene, meaning we are dealing with another Berserker state. And this is kinda confirmed by Isagi saying this when he challenged Rin, the best genius versus the best prodigy, meaning that they both reached the Berserker state. However, me saying that Isagi has went Berserk does not mean that he is a destroyer. In fact, being a destroyer doesn't fit with Isagi's playing style at all, and it is unique to Rin. Rather, I believe his Berserker state is the exact opposite of a destroyer. And there we reach the conclusion. I am actually dubbing it the Architect state, which is a complete counterpart to the destroyer state. One destroys everyone in his wake in order to reach his desire, and the other utilizes and pushes everyone around him in order to reach a goal of the same caliber. However, you might be asking, what do I mean by the Architect specifically? Well, in a sense, I mean a prodigy who orchestrates his team exactly like Snuffy did. Which, by the way, I gotta compliment the writer again, as this is pure gold. This is insane level of writing, because if you could believe this was hinted at in the second and third selection, which both were addressed by Karasu when he told Isagi that he is an average player that shines in the presence of geniuses. At that point, I really scratched my head. If Karasu targets the weakest link, why didn't he target Nanase? However, it was not the case. Karasu targeted the weakest link that has the potential to be the best link actually. Why? Because at that time we had 2 geniuses in Shido and Rin, and Isagi could easily adapt and react to them, making him a very dangerous player that might even be on higher level than both, which is exactly what ego means by the prodigy versus a genius. Even though a genius is insane, the prodigy is equally broken because he can adapt to him. In fact, I think the prodigy is more threatening, because the talented learner has the ability to lead other average players and attain new designs that allow them to reach the level of geniuses or other prodigies. which I gotta say, for something explored in the third and second selection, this is just insane, and again, I really love BLUELOCK because of this. If you think about it, our investment in the series thus far is really rewarded, and it really makes it so much fun to read, and even reread again. However, let's get back to the architect and what it would even mean. Well, as the name suggests, Isagi will be the mastermind that controls the whole team, or at least leads the whole team against anyone. But he has always been doing that, especially with the protagonist feeling. However, he reached a wall when he met Berserker Rin and Loki. All of a sudden, logic fails miserably. The protagonist feeling that is all based on logic really failed him here. And this is because geniuses are completely unorthodox in their playing style, and thus logic that would work 99% of the times cannot really explain geniuses. In fact, there is the essence of being a genius. You cannot be explained by simple logic. And please understand, I'm not saying that rationality or logic are bad here and they are holding Isagi, but actually what limits Isagi is rather his fixation on certain patterns because they are the most rational. As we've seen with Rin, he specifically counters the most rational pattern, which makes him really hard for players like Isagi. However, with this new weapon, Isagi has shed his fixation and subsequently bypassed his limitation, which honestly is beautifully exemplified in this new design to his eyes. You see, the metavision pattern now engulfs one's whole face and not just the retina, meaning that the mind now is also limitless like metavision. In a sense, this way you can reach an elevated state of metavision. Remember, as Isagi said, metavision is always as powerful as how the player utilizes it. The more information you take in, the more limitless your thinking is, the more your metavision can become oppressive. And please hold this thought, because first I want to talk about his hair turning silver. I really can't help but feel like this is looking like a Super Saiyan transformation. You know, his hair turns silver and it is an ascended state. And so I'm actually going to dub it Super Metavision. I know it's a corny name, but you have to think that the writer himself said that he is a fan of Dragon Ball, and thus it wouldn't surprise me if he takes inspiration from that. However, let's get back to the vision and what this means for Isagi. As we said, there are levels to metavision, and in this state, because Isagi rid himself of his fixations and limitations, his mind now takes everything into consideration, an architect with a design for each and every play or player, because simply put, he literally sees everything, but more importantly, he accounts for everything, whether be it the most rational option or secondary opportunities created by geniuses like Rin, or hell, near impossible to stop feats that players like Loki can conjure. Everything is within Isagi's imagination. Literally, even impossibility is within Isagi's imagination. And again, this is exactly like Snuffy. Think back to the time we first saw Snuffy play. Immediately after he passed the ball to Baro, he did not stand there and watch if he would score or not. Rather, he did something clever. Seeing that both Isagi and Akaza are going towards Baro, he deducted that even though the most rational option is for Baro to score here, there is a chance that they would stop him, and thus if they do, he positioned himself in a place where the ball is most likely to land after the block, and that's definitely insane foresight from him. However, what's important for us is that Snuffy did not just take the most rational option here, which is him passing towards Baro. He also accounted for other players that were outside of the most rational path, in this case Akaza and Isagi, and this is exactly what Isagi needs to do in order to beat players like Loki. If you notice, in chapter 281, Isagi was behind both Noah and Akaza, and there Loki burst from behind, taking the ball from them, and actually this really shook Isagi because he did not expect it. It seems impossible and outside of anyone's imagination. However, if he would know that, he would employ a design for him, Noah, and Akaza in that situation to combat and counter Loki's speed, which is definitely insane. Now, even though I think this point will be similar to what Snuffy is doing, and I feel the difference will be that Isagi will probably manipulate other teammates in order for him to reach the ultimate goal. And honestly, we don't know if Snuffy doesn't employ this, because the whole Ubers follow his design, so he never needed to manipulate anyone. And in fact, when Baro rebelled, Snuffy was excited. It almost seemed that he accounted for this, or better yet, that he manipulated Baro to reach this level. And if that's the case, I think Isagi will have the same thing as well, because let's face it, players like Akaza are impossible to ration with, and thus they need to be manipulated from the shadows. And I know it's ugly, but that's the reality of it. The Berserker state is ugly, whether be it through Rin's destruction, or Isagi's new weapon that no one, not even Loki with his god-gifted speed, can escape. Now, everything I've said so far is definitely impressive, however, I don't think it is everything. Because Isagi's latent ego has reawakened, I believe this form will be accompanied with insane hunger like none other. Not just to score or win, but rather to be nothing but the absolute best. Not just in the NEL, but as Isagi learned from Noah, he needs to have the desire to be nothing but the absolute best. And funny enough, if you think about it, this hunger will be the counterpart to Rin's hunger. And because Isagi is the architect that designed patterns for the whole team, I believe his hunger would leak to others, encouraging them to put more effort. And that's definitely something we've seen before, especially with Hiyori and Raichi. Hell, Hiyori straight up said this. And in fact, even Isagi said that he wanted that when he saw how Baru led Ubers. His drive made the whole team fall in line. And this will be the case here for Isagi as well. Albeit, I think Isagi will be on a whole different level, an all-encompassing ego that quite literally devours every existence on the field. And that's what I truly believe this new ability is all about. Now, I know I've talked a lot in this video, so to recap, this is what you need to take from this video. A new super meta vision that revolves around Isagi ridding himself of any fixation and limitation, to become able to take into consideration everything on the field, to adapt to everyone and present a design for every situation, coupled with hunger like none other, and the ability to either inspire or manipulate allies and enemies alike, to essentially become an omnipresence on the field, which by the way, this new ascended vision is dubbed by the community Omni Meta Vision, which I definitely like. However, as for the state, I'm calling it the architect. If Rin is a berserker of destruction, Isagi is a berserk of beautifully dominating the field. However, that's all I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and please let me know in the comments below what do you think of this new form to Isagi and this new level that he attained. But with that, until next time, thank you for watching.